Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Daniel.
I'm Summer.
Abigail.
Gabriel.
And we are the Colombian cousins and our wives.
And
today...
I'm like, spit it out so she can say
Okay,
it.
but he started off wrong.
Right? I
He
felt weird.
doesn't say what's up, guys.
He's like, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I was like, whoa.
I know.
Oh,
So I think
came
my
on.
eye twitched. I was like, this is wrong.
As soon as it came out of his
been a
mouth,
long
I'm
morning.
like, does he always say that?
what did I say?
know.
Hey, guys, welcome back to our channel.
Yes, and you were like, hey, what's up, guys? I'm like, whoa, whoa,
Hey,
whoa.
I was feeling
Long.
young,
This is too
feisty.
much.
I apologize for all our normal viewers out there who are twitching
It
right
just
now.
threw us all off.
It's the first video of the day,
It is.
so it's like, you know,
Trying
gonna
to
get a
find your
warm,
rhythm.
warm up.
Need a little. This isn't. Don't recommend drinking energy drinks, but I needed one today.
Don't recommend. Do not get any health advice from us ever, guys.
No, don't.
No health advice.
Anyway, today, as you know from the title, is another BU video. Last week was our finale BU video, but there was a ton of comments about watching this explanation video.
Yes.
So we kind of wanted to wait at least until last week the Map of the Soul video was out, because that's when really we got the culmination of like kind of the big picture, like the big reveal. So we did a poll to see if like, okay, we have a pretty good understanding. Obviously, we didn't catch everything.
Right.
So there's still things we didn't catch. But some people missed the album reviews and things like that. So we did a poll and it was relatively close.
It was like 40-60.
Yeah, 40-60, something like that. Yeah. So either way, I was going to be excited because this is probably a video I was going to check out anyway.
Right.
So we'll get to watch it with you guys. But this one's it's gonna recap the whole BU thing. I'm assuming this. I'm all assumptions. Recap the whole BU. And she does, from what I heard, she does a really good job summarizing stuff. And she does a good job of calling out what's fact and what's theory, because that's the thing.
Oh, good. Because a lot of things I think we thought were fact, but they were actually theory.
Fan theory.
Right.
Yeah.
So we kind of need that. And so obviously, just like our son read, when she wrote things, she would give what was fact, what was provided by BTS, and she would include what the general fandom theory on that was. This is the same. So we know that this isn't all like gospel. There's like some parts that are still floating, and especially because the BU isn't technically finished.
Right.
Right. So it'll be cool to see what we missed, and then just kind of, and it actually nice to go back and recap some of the older videos, knowing what we know.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I'm excited for a video because I'm much more of a visual, like need visual to remember things,
right,
as opposed to like a lot of that
Reading,
all
yeah.
the reading.
right. The reading sometimes you had to like reread it a few times for it to really click. Except for the webtoon. When I was reading the webtoon stuff, I was like, man, I'm hooked on this.
Same.
And then so we're gonna hop into this, and then we'll go ahead and know that next week we're gonna be continuing our album review. For those of you who love the BU but are ready for the new stuff, album review is coming next week.
New stuff.
Yeah. So we're excited to jump back into that stuff and other things.
Okay.
Otherwise, I need another one of these now. I just burnt through
I
it.
feel like it's like
Take a breath, please.
Take a breath. We like XLS. We like her videos. They're always really good. We've enjoyed them. So I'm curious to see
Same.
how this one goes. You ready, guys?
Yep.
All right. Consider subscribing to our channel, please.
Welcome back to my channel and to an updated BTS
you read that?
storyline summary.
Yeah.
Reminder
Let's,
that this is a fictional storyline.
Thank you.
Good.
Yes.
You know, remember like
when
at
we
the
were
very
like,
beginning?
Jimin got kidnapped.
Yeah. Like OMG. I probably don't need
I don't
these.
think we
Yeah.
need it if it's going to be in English.
I think we're good. What's ambient mode?
I remember we talked about that before. It does a thing, but in full screen, I don't think it matters. I don't know.
Line created by Big Hit. This video contains information from BTS's music videos, films, highlight reels, concert VCRs, Save Me webtoon, BTS Universe story game, notes, album, and the Notes 1 and 2 books.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Puzzle pieces everywhere.
Yes.
This is an updated version from my last BTS storyline summary back in 2019, but since then we've gotten a lot more information, so that's why I'm making this updated version. Enjoy! We'll begin with the boys meeting in high school, March 2, year 19. The boys were late for school and were sent to clean the storage classroom as punishment. Through this event, they became close friends and made the storage classroom their secret hideout. They shared a lot of happy moments together, filled with laughter and joy. June 12,
seen that one.
2019. They decided to ditch school to find a rock by the sea that would grant wishes, but when they got there, the rock was no longer there. It was under construction for a seawall. But they still shouted out their dreams over the loud sounds of the drill. This was when they took their first Polaroid picture. As time went on, hardships in life began to tear them apart. Around May, year 20, Namjoon moved to the countryside with his brother, mother, and ill father. He was about to write a letter to the boys, but instead, he fogged up the window in their hideout and wrote, "We must survive." Namjoon left without saying anything to the boys. Namjoon lived in poverty. His family has been struggling to pay for the father's hospital bills. He would work 2 to 3 part-time jobs in order to pay for the bill and to make a living. The boys looked up to Namjoon because of how responsible he was, but he felt pressured. They'd say how they wanted to be an adult like him, but little did they know how he felt. Taehyung looked up to Namjoon a lot. When he was young, his mother left him and his older sister behind. Both him and his sister grew up getting abused by their alcoholic father. Since Taehyung doesn't open up about his feelings and hardships, the boys don't really know what he's going through. June 11, year 20. Seokjin was forced by the principal to reveal their hideout. The principal threatened to tell Seokjin's father about how he was a bad student. The dean walked into the hideout while Jungkook and Yoongi were playing the piano. He came up and slapped Jungkook. Yoongi became defensive and ended up pushing the dean. Because of this, Yoongi got expelled from school, and Jungkook blamed himself for what happened. Seokjin lived in a wealthy family. When his mother passed away, his father sent him to the US to live with his grandmothers. His father was an assemblyman who was always strict and cold towards him. Seokjin just wanted to make his family proud of him. September 15, year 20. Hoseok and Jimin were at the bus stop when Jimin ended up having a seizure. He was brought to the hospital, and Hoseok tried to stay by his side, but Jimin's mother turned him away. When Hoseok was about 6 to 7 years old, his mother brought him to a carnival and gave him a chocolate bar. She told him to close his eyes, then count to 10. When he opened his eyes, she was gone. She abandoned him, and he ended up living in an orphanage for 10 years. Through this event, Hoseok developed narcolepsy, or at least that's what he says. I have a theory that he has a disorder called Munchausen syndrome, which we see during his film For Mama. It's a mental disorder in which a person repeatedly and deliberately acts as if he or she has a physical or mental illness
had another name.
when he or she is not
Munchausen
really
syndrome.
sick. In the Notes 1 book, for May 16, year 22, Hoseok admitted to Jimin that his narcolepsy was actually fake. September 28, year 20. Jimin is still in the hospital and has been there for 2 years now. Today was a special day for him. He lied for the first time and told the doctors that he didn't remember a thing. When Jimin was about 8 years old, an incident at the Flowering Arboretum scarred him for life. After a school picnic, he began to walk home alone since his parents didn't show up to pick him up. It began to rain, so he ran into a storage building of the Flowering Arboretum. That's where he saw a little kid laying on the ground tied up in a room. He had bruises on his arms and legs and scars on his wrist from being tied up for too long. He witnessed the kid trying to fight back by using a box cutter, but a man unarmed the boy and slammed the door shut. Jimin heard the boy's screams turn into wailing and gradually subsided. Jimin was able to escape without being caught, but ever since this incident, he began to have seizures, and his parents would keep bringing him to the hospital. He transferred to 5 different schools because of this. We find out that the kid's last name is Choi, and he was about 5 years old at that time. The little boy was discovered near Hwayong Mountain on April 10, and he suffered from temporary amnesia. The police were looking for clues to conduct an investigation of the case, but it seemed like nothing was solved. This little kid is most likely the boy Seokjin tried to save on October 10, year 9. Min were trying to kidnap this kid for ransom because the father's company went bankrupt, but Seokjin helped him escape. He tried to hide this kid in his house, but Seokjin's father let the men into the house to take the kid away. Now here's the thing, Seokjin's event happened in year 9, and Jimin's event happened in year 11. So I'm not sure if
2 years
that
later.
kid was really kept for that long or what happened in between, but just make note of that. September 30, year 20. Jungkook would go to their secret hideout every day in hopes of one day seeing them all gathered together again. In the end, they didn't. It was just Hoseok and Jungkook. Jungkook relied on the boys a lot. His father left when he was 7, so he lived with his mother, stepfather, and stepbrother. He'd get abused by his stepbrother while his stepfather and mother watched and did nothing. So his family were the boys, who were now falling apart.
Right.
He was very close to Yoongi, and he'd always be listening to Yoongi play the piano at their secret hideout. Yoongi has always loved making music, but when he was 15 years old, his house caught on fire with his mother still inside. She passed away, and she was the reason why Yoongi started playing the piano. Him and his father don't have a good relationship, and it seemed as if his father didn't want him to continue making music. Theory: Yoongi's mom was the one who started the fire to commit suicide. She supposedly went insane and was also a pianist. Now the story goes on. Namjoon left for the
I know.
countryside without telling anyone, but comes back after over a year and lives in a container. Seokjin transferred to a school in Los Angeles without a word. Taehyung's whereabouts were always unknown. Yoongi never showed up after being expelled from school. Jimin never came back to school after going to the hospital.
And they all got
Hoseok
separated.
was now working a part-time job at a burger joint called 2-Star Burger, and he would sometimes see Jungkook in his school uniform. April 11, year 22. Seokjin finally came back to Korea after 2 years and 10 months. He drove to a gas station and spotted Namjoon working there. He decided not to say hi and ended up driving away.
Remember
May
that.
22, year 22. Seokjin begins to wonder what the other boys were doing now. He decides to go back to the gas station to visit Namjoon, but when he gets there, he finds out Namjoon ended up going to jail.
Yeah, for
He got his phone number and went to visit him. Namjoon revealed that he got into jail after getting into a fight with a customer. Hoseok was in the hospital after a bad accident. They didn't know where Taehyung and Jimin were, and that both Jungkook and Yoongi were dead.
Yeah.
When Seokjin was heading out of the police office, he saw Taehyung outside of the
For
entrance.
killing his dad.
He was tied up and convicted of murder. Seokjin went back to the beach they visited back in high school and asked himself, where did it all go wrong? Then a voice spoke to him.
The cat.
If you could turn back time, do you believe you can straighten out the errors and mistakes and save everyone? He woke up and it was April 11 again. He thought it was all a dream and continued his day like nothing happened. He went to the gas station and saw Namjoon, then again decided not to say hi. He began to drive through an alley when a body landed on the hood of his car.
Is it Jungkook?
Yeah.
He realized it was Jungkook. His heart began to beat fast and everything shattered like a mirror. It was April 11 again. So he kept thinking everything was a dream, and so the same things would happen again. He went to the gas station and didn't say hi to Namjoon, and this time he's walking down the alley, and then Jungkook's body dropped behind him. Everything shattered, and a voice spoke to him once again. You won't make it out here alone in this entangled destiny. Here's how you remember the loop.
Right.
And as the voice spoke to him, he began to see fragments of the previous timelines.
That's a
Then
cool way to
another voice
visualize it.
spoke. If you could turn back time, do you believe you could straighten out the errors and mistakes and save everyone? That's when Seokjin finally realized that he's been going back in time. Okay, now things get super complicated during this journey. He begins to find out how each of the boys get in trouble and how they die, but every time he travels back in time, things would change. Because of the butterfly effect, location and time would sometimes change. Reminder that butterfly effect is a part of the chaos theory that states that one small change in a situation can drastically change the outcome of an event. At this point, we don't know how many times Seokjin had traveled back in time, but he began to realize that he has to learn more about the boys and their struggles in order to help them. He also realizes that he needs the boys to help him, but he does this indirectly. If you want all of the details, I do recommend you starting with the Save Me webtoon and then continue by playing the BTS Universe story game. I did create a summary for the game if you'd like to check that out. Link is in my description box. But I'll be going over each character's tragedies, which is shown during their Save Me webtoon, their reason, which is found in the BTS Universe story game, and the solution, which is found during the Notes 1 and 2 book. On April 11,
I want to pause, see if there's anybody. A lot of information that we've gotten.
Well, when she's like, and then it gets complicated. I'm like, so
it gets complicated.
So it's not complicated
That was
yet.
the easy part.
Yeah.
There's things I remember from what we read, and there's things that are new, and then some things I'd forgotten that we had read from like way early on.
Well, what I was doing when she was talking about this is I was like going back and picturing in my mind some of the videos we had seen, and like remembering Jen with that face of like.
Yeah.
And at the time, we didn't know he was time traveling or why he was so distressed.
Yeah.
Because he's probably trying to figure out, like, how many times have I been back here? Or, like, now what do I have to do?
She said that, and it showed him sitting on the couch. And whenever she said he realized that he was in a time loop, and he's sitting in the couch, and he has this look. I got goosebumps because I was like, I can actually see how he would look in that situation, knowing that he's in this loop thing.
Yes. Now all those, like, remember when he was sitting at that? I go back to that time when they were sitting. What video is it? Save Me? I don't know what it is. I don't remember. They're sitting on that big like feast table. And the sky is like turning like those colors.
Oh.
And he's at the head of the table.
No, that's Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Thank you. Yeah. And then he just has this look like there's something else. I remember you and I made the comment like he's like in this different world. Yeah.
My question is, okay, he thought it was a dream, but did he had to get gas 4 different times, so he kept dreaming.
I know.
Like, wouldn't it at some point be like super deja vu? Unless he didn't remember his dreams,
right?
Like, so that's when he first woke up.
Yeah.
And he goes and sees Namjoon, and then
he's like, I need gas every morning for 4 days, and then he finally realized, oh wait,
this is actually a loop.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah, because I guess every time he wakes up, it's not clear enough to remember that he did all those things.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if he remembered that when he went to see Namjoon, but he didn't talk to him, then he would have maybe done something different.
Maybe every time he wakes up, he has before the loop started, he has that previous day's thoughts. So if you go to sleep thinking in the morning, I'm going to get gas.
Yeah,
you
something
just
like
wake
that.
up and you do that over and over.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That could be, but except I don't know. So the thing is, when the loop would reset, it happened when somebody would die, and it'd be like a shattering thing. And if it was like at 3 p.m., these were just shattered, and he wake up again in the morning. That would be pretty disorienting.
Yeah.
But does he
Yeah,
does he remember the
I don't think so.
it
I
doesn't.
think that's what she said.
just
Is
didn't
he
know-
doesn't remember.
I wasn't clear on how long it took him before he did remember that he was, because like he kept reliving the same day, but then just kept doing all the same stuff, and people
Right.
kept
So
dying.
eventually he had to start learning from his dreams.
Yeah.
Or like
Well,
those,
and I don't know.
Oh, that's what it said. Like,
Yeah.
this is how you can remember.
Yeah, but I think that was something that was presented to him later. I don't know if that was like
After a handful of times, I'm
maybe
sure.
a handful. Then he was just getting like fragments. And I'm curious to see if this tells us how detailed. Like, will he have like a full memory of a previous loop, or just details
Fragments.
about things? Because then, like, that would take a lot of like mental toll to remember a full day
Could you write
over and over and
notes?
over and over and over.
If you wrote something out and then the loop reset.
Did I read that in the thing?
He does.
His
Doesn't he do
notebook?
that?
His notebook.
So that yeah.
So he just opens it up. He's like,
he's like,
But see, I thought about that. It wouldn't be there when he wakes up. It'd be blank.
Right, because
so the first thing he does, he has to
resets.
wake up and write
as
much as possible,
and then go from there.
Because the next morning it's blank again.
No wonder why he was always looking exhausted and stressed out.
Like, that's a lot of brain power to like remember
But
weeks,
also
months.
the butterfly effect.
Yes.
So it's not always the exact same.
Right.
Right.
And I know they're gonna get to that.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right.
Okay.
Oh, my brain.
Tragedy. Oh, okay.
Oh, more tragedy.
Back to
During the Notes 1 and 2 book. On April 11, year 22, Namjoon gets into a fight with a customer at the gas station. The customer would get his gas filled, then drop the cash on the ground for Namjoon to pick up. This would cause a fight, and Namjoon would end up in jail. Reason: money has always been a constant source of frustration and misery for Namjoon. He has been working 2 to 3 part-time jobs to pay for his ill father's
That makes
hospital
sense.
bills.
He was frustrated.
Because of this, he lived in a container and would sometimes sleep at the gas station's break room. He had to put his love for books aside and hold off on purchases because of his budget. That's why he couldn't stomach kneeling down to pick up the money and being insulted over it. Solution: Seokjin lets the whole scene with the rude customer play out, but as soon as the customer drops the money for Namjoon to pick up, Seokjin comes in and grabs it, then hands it to the customer. This saved Namjoon from getting into a fight and going to jail. Later that night, April 11, year 22, Jungkook would purposely get into fights with thugs on the street, then make his way to the top of a construction building to jump off. Reason: the boys were his family, and he was no longer in contact with them. He felt like his family didn't care about him and that no one cared about him. Solution: after Seokjin saved Namjoon at the gas station, Namjoon invited him to meet up with Taehyung and Hoseok after work. Seokjin asked about the others, and Namjoon said he didn't really talk to the others anymore, but he does think Hoseok still talked to Yoongi. Seokjin would encourage Namjoon to call Hoseok, and this would cause a domino effect. Namjoon would call Hoseok asking him to invite Yoongi, then Yoongi calls Jungkook before he decides to jump off the construction building. May 2, year 22. Yoongi burns himself in either a motel or his workroom. He also tries on April 29 and May 10 during different timelines because of the butterfly effect. Reason: Yoongi believed that bad things would happen to people he cared about. This caused him to distance himself from the boys, especially Jungkook. Solution: Seokjin realized the last time Yoongi genuinely smiled was when all 7 of the boys were together. He also realized that both Yoongi and Jungkook had the same tinge of desperation in their eyes. Jungkook was the key to saving Yoongi. So this time, instead of Seokjin doing it himself, he had Jungkook visit Yoongi at his workroom. This would cause Yoongi to run away and go into the motel. Jungkook would then try to run after him and follow him. Seokjin left a clue in front of the motel Yoongi was in so Jungkook could find him. And that's how Jungkook ends up saving Yoongi.
And he was mad at him for it.
Yeah.
May 12, year 22. Jimin drowns himself in the bathtub at the hospital. If he didn't take his life while he was in the surgical ward, he would make the same choice days after he returned to the closed ward. Reason: Jimin believes that he belongs in the hospital. This was his way of running away from the past incident he witnessed at the Flower Laboratorium. He didn't want to make things any more difficult for his mother than they already were, so that's why he took his life. Solution: Seokjin had tried to convince Jimin to leave and also had Taehyung try, but it didn't work. Hoseok is supposed to be the one who could convince Jimin to leave the hospital. May 10, year 22. Hoseok falls and hits his head while walking on a bridge. He ended up in the hospital for a checkup. May 12, year 22. Hoseok accidentally falls down the stairs at the hospital and breaks his ankle. Reason: Hoseok gets a call from the children's home, which is his orphanage, in regards to Kim Jung-hee, the staff who was like a mother to him. She has colon cancer, and because it was in its late stage, surgery had a low chance of success. After finding out this news on May 10, he would collapse on the bridge. As for the accident at the hospital, Hosuk would notice a woman with a long skirt, hat pressed low, with a child. He thought it was his mother, so he followed her down the stairs and ended up falling. Solution. Seokjin figured out that Jimin was the solution to saving Hosuk. Hosuk actually ended up in the same hospital Jimin was at. And while Jimin was waiting for an elevator at the hospital, Seokjin called out his name and led him over to the staircase. Jimin saw Hosuk running down the stairs and was able to catch him before he fell. After Hosuk was released from the hospital, he came back with the others. They all worked together to help Jimin and encouraged him to leave the hospital.
It was like my first visit.
May 20, year 22. Taehyung would come home to his alcoholic father abusing his older sister. This caused him to grab a bottle, break it open, then stab his father to death. This led up to him going to jail. If he didn't end up in jail, he ended up jumping off the viewing platform by the ocean in front of the boys in a different timeline. Reason. Taehyung and his sister have been dealing with their alcoholic father for years, and Taehyung was fed up with the violence. As for him jumping off the platform, this happened during a timeline when they stopped him from murdering his father. He was frightened that he would become just like his father because of the recent incident.
Then he would remember it?
Seokjin had personally tried to stop Taehyung but ended up accidentally getting stabbed. This time around, he had Hosuk give it a try. Hosuk was able to catch Taehyung just in time and stopped him from stabbing his father.
That's why he's in there with him.
Jumped off the platform, Seokjin went up the platform instead. So here we are, May 22, year 22. Seokjin finally saved everyone. They were all gathered at the beach together once again. After the sunset, they went back to the place they were staying at and started dancing, laughing, and having fun. Seokjin thought this was a good time to finally confess to the boys. Taehyung thought he was going to tell everyone about what was really going on. A couple days before their beach trip, Taehyung asked Seokjin about the dreams he had been having. He has been having dreams of the past timelines. Seokjin said he didn't know anything, but Taehyung knew he was lying. So when Seokjin started confessing, and it was actually about the time he snitched on them during high school and how Yoongi got expelled, that made Taehyung angry because he thought Seokjin was just being a coward and not admitting to the dreams and stuff. Taehyung then shouts out, "What's so great about being together? Who are we to one another? We're all alone in the end." That's when Seokjin punched Taehyung and they broke out in a fight. You know, his repeated attempts, his countless tries to save his friends, he repeated so many moments of suffering for them. So, you know, he's asking, why are you doing this to me? After that event, they all went their separate ways and didn't contact each other much. Seokjin must have gone back again, but in another timeline, Seokjin leaves before all of this happens. Later that night, Jungkook got hit by a car. But not just any car. Jungkook believes it was Seokjin who hit him, but the odd thing is, Seokjin doesn't remember doing that at all. And we'll get to that in a little bit. This is when the highlight reels come in. So after they've gone their separate ways and they didn't really contact each other much, we're gonna touch base on each character.
So Hosuk
was the first person who heard about Jungkook's accident. He was working at the burger joint when Jungkook's classmates came in and talked about the car accident. Hosuk and Jimin came to visit him after he was unconscious for 10 days. They were upset that Jungkook didn't contact them immediately. Jungkook ends up meeting a girl at the hospital who helped him stay positive during his recovery. Yoongi was making music again with the help of a girl who played the guitar. She was giving him free solo performances at schools and hospitals. Ever since he got addicted to his work again, he would lose sense of time. He didn't answer calls or checked his messages. He finally charged his phone, then it rang. It was a phone call from Jimin, telling him about Jungkook's car accident that happened the night they came back from the beach. Yoongi made it to the hospital but couldn't bring himself to go in. He felt like it was his fault that Jungkook got hurt. Jungkook went outside with the girl he met at the hospital. They were sitting on a bench while he began to sketch. Then he heard a familiar song. It was a song Yoongi would play during high school.
Oh, that's right.
He looked over and it was the girl with the guitar. He got closer and noticed the lighter hanging on her guitar with the initials YK. It was Yoongi's initials. Taehyung is now all alone, but then he catches a girl stealing at a convenience store. They run into each other a couple more times and ended up basically becoming friends. They spent about a month together until one day, they were spraying graffiti at the bus stop Namjoon usually stops at. The cops began to chase them until they were cornered. Taehyung ended up surrendering, but after being released from jail, the girl was nowhere to be found. Jimin ends up going back home after they returned from the beach. After he ran away from the hospital, he has been living with Hosuk, but now it's time to go back home. His mother forced him to join an academy, and he was finally able to join Hosuk's dance class called Just Dance. During dance practice, Jimin and Hosuk's friend collided. Instead of him reacting to the girl getting hurt, he ends up running into the bathroom to wash the blood off his arm in a panic. This reminded him of what he did at the Flowering Arboretum, where he would run away. As soon as he realized what happened, he ran after Hosuk and the girl with an umbrella to help out, but stopped and turned back. Hosuk carried the girl in the rain to the hospital. In the process, he hurts his ankle. They made it, and the doctor told him she had a mild concussion. Hosuk discovers a plane ticket to the US in her backpack. He realized that she passed the overseas dance team audition. She became conscious and was ready to go home. When they got to the entrance, she was about to tell him about her going to the US, but instead, Hosuk avoided it and made an excuse to get an umbrella. He just didn't want to hear about her leaving. Namjoon becomes interested in a girl he's been seeing every day for about a month. They would take the same bus to study in the same library before he'd go to work at night. He never spoke a word to her, though, but began to wonder what she does and what kind of things she's enduring. It's probably because she reminded him of himself. He finally got the courage to buy her a hair tie, but ended up leaving it on her backpack when she was asleep. Eventually, each of the boys begin to rediscover themselves and realize they want to become a better person. Taehyung no longer wanted to be the same and wanted to protect his sister and his father, his family. Hosuk decided to leave town and was gone for a while to heal his injured foot, since he couldn't dance. During that time, he helped out a performance group and even toured with them for a little. They asked him to officially join their group, but he realized he needed to go back home. He didn't want to run away anymore. He comes back to finally congratulate his friend for going overseas. Yoongi lost the guitar girl, but even though he gave up on his music countless of times, he'd always start music again, and he didn't want to run away from it anymore. Jimin continued to dance and would practice by himself every night. He wanted to commit to something and prove that he was good at it. Namjoon thought back to his high school years. Everything he had given up on, he wanted to start again. Jungkook was the only one who seemed to be off, especially after the car accident. He was trying to figure out what happened that night. Now, all of the boys planned on meeting up for the yearly fireworks on August 30, year 22. It was actually Hosuk's idea to get everyone together, and after he returned from taking a break, their group chat started buzzing again. Now there's Seokjin. In July, Seokjin saw a girl drop her diary while crossing the railroad tracks. In that diary was her wish list of things to do. He ends up meeting up with her and doing everything she's been wanting, but he never told her that he had her diary. One of the things on her wish list was Smeraldo flowers. Seokjin was able to find a shop who could order those, but they wouldn't be able to get a hold of it until August.
I was waiting for
30.
because we saw some stuff talking about like there was a whole like the Book of Damien stuff and there was like the Smeraldo part.
Yes.
But then when once we got to the webtoon stuff, that's all I can think about.
Yeah.
Is like Jin trying to save all the guys. So then I was hoping that she would come back to how it ties back to those stories.
To that story.
And it's all like there's like an overarching story about a guy trying to save his friends and being stuck in this time loop. But each of them individually have their own stories.
Right.
And like hardships that they had to endure. And not only just hardships, but just like life, like going after girls or music. But then there's, because like they lived, before Jin saved them, they lived a certain life that led to downfall for most of them. Now they're all like saved. So they have like this new.
Well, so I don't think, I mean, maybe we had read that at some point, but all of those storylines that we were just reading was after Jin had already saved them.
That's how I'm reading. That's how I'm taking it now.
Yeah. And now they all split up, went their separate ways.
Right.
And you could see like they were starting to go towards a path where like things were going to start happening again. But then they all took a shift to be like, no, I want to be a better person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why things started to like turn around. And all of them like have a girl.
Right. Someone with them, like Tay stopped the girl from stealing and became friends.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, then they don't see, he got arrested when he got out. He didn't see her again.
Right.
Same thing with J-Hope, Hobie. She was going to move to America.
Yeah.
So like,
it's like they come lost.
Because I was thinking like, what happens if he saved them all? They're all, and they live like another 3 years, and then one of them falls back into a thing, and something happens. Is it going to reset 3 years back?
Yeah.
Or is it just like you're out of the loop now, and then
I don't know.
I don't know
what stops the loop.
Yeah.
The cat.
That dang cat.
Wow.
And I think it's cool that little components of like this fictional story is pretty tied to them as people. Like obviously Yoongi with the piano playing, and like Hobie and Jimin with the dancing.
Yes. Or like Jimin, even with like the perfectionism, like him staying up all night practicing. I think he does that now.
I have a vague thought. I don't know if I read it, if it was a comment or what, but like about the boys' involvement in these storylines or their influence, and so that would be on brand if it was like, I want my guy to be a dancer, because like, you know, things like that.
Writers, okay.
Yeah. Yes,
Sure
yes,
thing.
sir. We'll put that in there.
You are now
And little
a
things that they talk about, it makes total sense. Like, because like when we were in the Webtoon, like going way back, Namjoon got into a fight. It got him arrested. I'm like, why is he fighting? But then it ties it all together. Like we knew he lived in a little container.
Right.
We knew that money was a hardship.
Yeah.
So it was just like the straw that broke the camel's back.
And working all these jobs, and so it's like, oh well, that's why. Like, it gives context.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, this is definitely tying it all. It's a lot, but it's really only a lot of detail because it's a lot. It's a storyline for each person.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
and
it's
this is still like kind of glossed, because I remember some of these things we read, but it's just kind of glossing over the main points. So even then, there's still details that aren't included.
Yeah.
But it ties it all. And like she references scenes that I had forgotten, like a random one. Jimin stopping J-Hope from falling down the stairs.
Yeah.
Like if we saw that in any other video, it would mean literally nothing.
Yeah.
Like what they're like in hospital gowns and downstairs. What is even happening?
I think I had the timeline kind of flipped.
Maybe like, it's still maybe it is.
Like all of this stuff we're seeing now, I thought was before the time loop.
Well, and is that because we were reading about that stuff? Because like the order that we discovered things, the time loop was at the end.
Yeah.
Was that the order that everything actually happened in the story?
Right. No.
Maybe not. We'll see.
This makes more sense.
To me, they were just. I I didn't think it was before or after. I just thought I was like, oh, 2 different stories.
They're just like separate, all these separate storylines.
Yeah, like not connected at all.
Yeah.
Like, here's another movie.
That's just like
okay.
It's like because I cannot commit the brain power to making this all work.
Yeah.
So thank you, Exless, for
well,
doing it for
I'm
us.
now I want to see now. She's talking about the Smeraldo thing,
The flower,
like that whole story. I want to see how if she ties it back or not.
Seokjin was thinking of confessing his love for her with the flowers while the fire.